exciting. Yeah. Oh, nice.
Looks like we're all set.
Yeah, cool. I just admitted the other person here. Yeah, cool. Looks like we are live. Hi, everyone. Hope you are all having a great evening or morning, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for all being here. This is the New York City Ableton User Group Meetup for October. We do monthly meetups, and these are hosted by 343 Labs. We are a music production and electronic music school based in Manhattan, usually, except when we're in a pandemic where we're kind of based like on the internet. But we still do classes in New York, and we also do classes in Berlin too. We are an Ableton Certified Training Center, and we're very happy to offer a lot of activities related to Ableton stuff. But my name's Claire. I'm one of the instructors at 343 Labs, and I'm also an Ableton Certified Trainer too. Really happy to be hosting it today with a really exciting lineup. We've got some presentations coming up about production, about performance. We got like a tour diary-esque sort of experience maybe coming up. But yeah, we want to also just say hi to everyone, especially if you're new to the community. 343 Labs, like I said, we're mainly based in New York. But if you want to follow along for more of our activities, and especially if you enjoy tonight's little meeting that we have, feel free to tune in for our other offerings too. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out our other social media platforms where you can find announcements about the cool stuff that we do. And next time, or even if you want to, join us in Zoom for the next meeting, you are more than welcome to, because this is also a Zoom meeting that we have for the user group. So shout out to a couple of people on YouTube. I see some familiar community members. Great to see everyone. We've got Maya. Hi, Maya. How's it going? Nefertiti's also here. Great to see all of you. Scott. Hey, how's it going? Gareth. Yay. Nice to see you. MP Got Beats. Hi again. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. Really appreciate all of you being here. So I'm going to take a moment to maybe just speak a little bit about some things that we've also been doing at 343 Labs in the light of, the pandemic situation. We are still offering classes. So if you want to find out more information, you can head over to 343labs.com. But we have stuff online as well as in person for a lot of our locations. And we have some upcoming workshops and courses if you want to come and get to know a bit more about anything related to Ableton Live, especially if you like tonight's presentations. We've got a beginner course that starts on October the 12th and another one on October the 18th as well for both online and New York City, and also some intermediate stuff on Ableton Live too. And speaking of that, we have some interesting presentations about both live stuff and also live performance with live. And the intermediate classes will be on October 24th and 25th starting then too. But I'll speak a bit more about this later. In the meantime, yeah, hi to everyone else who also just joined in on YouTube. I see the numbers bumping up a little, so thanks for all being here. We're going to start off tonight's presentations with Sienna Wu, who I'm very excited to have. Sienna's a great friend of mine, and she's also an amazing composer and producer, vocalist, songwriter, a bunch of other things too, sound designer. So I'm going to let her kind of introduce herself and speak a little bit more, but please give a warm welcome to Sienna. Sienna, thanks for being here and for calling from China.
Oh yeah, you have no idea. I had to do something to specifically log on to here. And thanks so much for inviting me here. It's really exciting to be presenting this. And yeah, what I'm gonna do is that I'm just gonna be doing a run through of my session that I did over the summer, which is going to be like a composition / songwriting session with mainly virtual instruments, with vocals and Foley stuff. So it's going to be audio based mainly, with very minimal MIDI. So I'm going to share my screen here. All right. So I'm going to be playing this for a little bit just to let you guys know what kind of music that I do. So here we go. So I'm gonna stop here. Thank you so much. So that was something I did over the summer. This piece is called The Kitchen. So it's inspired by the kitchen and inspired by mainly how I was feeling during the summer, which is very much homesick. And I took a lot of samples from just indoor sounds Foley. And as you can see here, I did a lot of Foley samples like aluminum can, beer bottles, and stuff, all from I think Pro Sound Effects. And I chopped them up and using a bunch of resonators to create some kind of a drums slash melody. And here is my beloved plugin from Sennheiser, my binaural plugin. I know it's not supposed to work with speakers and stuff, but I just love the way it sounds. It gives you a little bit of depth and it can really let you know which height you're at. I don't know how it works, but it gives you sort of a different perception of depth, I guess. So that's a little bit of the drum kit. So I'm gonna go back to the start to let you guys know what I did for this session. So it's mainly samples and audio processing. So at the beginning, this sound is created by the Michael Norris plugin. I'm sure Claire knows this. We've taken a few of the same classes. And
Michael Norris.
Yes, because it's free. You could download it online. And it's amazing what it does. I'm just going to unmute these. So this is the original sample. And what I did is just that using the filter bank, it sort of lets you create sort of a melody and a chord tendency, but not very, I guess it's not very like generic. It gives you a sort of different vibes to it. I don't know how to describe it. It gives you a percussive, it gives you like a blurry line between percussive and melodic. So that's that. And did a little bit of freezing. So it gives it a little like steady flow to the sound. Modulate it a little bit so that it comes from more of an ambience to a percussion. And we have the next sound, which is going to be, I think here, not sure. It's this one here. So if you're using headphones, you would probably tell that I'm using a binaural plugin on this one, and I'm modulating where it's coming in terms of sound space. So it's mainly at the back of your head. I don't know how you experience it with your different headphones, but it's supposed to work like a circle inside your head so that it gives you like a little bit of fairy dust kind of feel. And what I did was that I mainly used, these are samples from Splice. These are prepared piano samples. So if I mute this spectral plugin that I have, which is spectral granulation from Michael Norris, which is free, download it. Oops. So that'll be just hearing this thin sheet of metal sound scraping, as well as the prepared piano sound. Or, yeah, it's a prepared piano note. It sounds a little bit like guitar string to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's pitched up and down. Yeah, some of it is pitched down to like 12 semitones, as you could see here. So it sounds a little bit different. It sounds a little more stringy, in my opinion. So yeah, I did a bunch of spectral stuff and mainly just soundscape panning and all that, using a lot of Foley. Here's what I did. Oops. So I think the key to creating music with audio is that it's oftentimes it's hard to transition from one sound to another, and it's all about morphing, the morphing action, the blending gestures that what you do in composition techniques. I'm no expert in that, but I love having a lot of automations going in from one place to another. And this is an example of kind of a gesture type of situation. So here, I'm pretty sure it's this sample. It's, I think it's just a hi-hat loop. But it sounds a little more metallic because I pitched it down 21 semitones. And there's just that. And this is a drum set. Oh wait, no, it's not. What is it? Oh, that's a toaster. And I'm pretty sure I added a snare. Yep. But I think I probably did something to it. I did a little bit of granulator. Ableton is great for warping its sounds. I transposed it down 5 semitones with the warp on. And I use this texture function inside of the settings here, and you can set the grain size. It sounds very different. That is 2 grains, which is going to be very lo-fi downsampled. I guess it's different, but please don't roast me on this one, Rajab, if you're watching. I oftentimes don't remember exactly how plugins work, but I guess it's a little bit similar. This is a little more hi-fi sort of quality, which is because it's just taking bits of audios and filling it in. Yeah, I love this feature so much. I also love the beats feature because it lets you slice stuff rhythmically. Know if you could tell. Love that. So yeah, we're gonna go back to here. I forgot what setting it was. I think it's up here. Yes. So a toaster oven and a snare. And before that, we had a little sound like this. It's sort of like a sound effect situation. I forgot how I made it. I think I made it in SoundHack. I don't know if you guys are familiar with SoundHack, but I can't really show you how I made it because I'm on Catalina right now and it doesn't run on Catalina. So it's basically what I did is that I used this very speed function in SoundHack that lets you stretch audio in real time and automate it. And this is really coming from, I think, some random samples, and then I stretched it out. Oftentimes, if you stretch out something, it lets you create something that you really never know exists in the audio file, which is really fun. Love to do that before I start a session, so just to create some gems here and there that you never knew existed. So I'm pretty sure I did a little bit of reverse on this one. So that's that. And oh, and I used lab piano on this one. Well, it's all about the free plugins, is it? It's free. It's from Spitfire. If you're interested, just download the soft piano. Used a lot of free stuff in here. I love that water sample. I love that water impact. Thank you, Splice. And I think this is the metal that I used, and it's from Riot. I don't know if that's the game. We'll see. I think that's some random Foley samples. But I know it's a little bit sporadic probably, but that's how I do. That's how I did this because I got kind of tired of the grid-based composition. And sometimes I feel like it's a lot more freeing to just throw samples onto a session and just see where it can lead you. Oh, this is actually from resampling the reverb from a previous sample. I don't know if you guys have tried this before. Just throwing a lot of reverb on one track, not using any bus at all, and then resample it. And you can create a lot of pads with it. And with pad sounds or just any sound, you could use this function, which I use a lot, to create sort of like an low pass gate sort of feel. Not really, but it's sort of like a low pass gate. And that's my birds from Splice. Here's a film projector sound. So it's a kalimba loop again from Splice. And I use the beautiful Simpler from Ableton. And I use the slice mode. I'm slicing it by transient. It's nothing fancy. It's just I think the default setting from Ableton. And what I did is that I used another buffer shuffler. I don't know if people who perform might love to use this plugin because it lets you have a lot of freedom with tweaking it on the fly sort of situation. And if I mute that, it'll sound like this. Oops. So what I did is that this is really cool. I don't know how they managed to do that, but I changed the pitch, stutter it. I think also did some little shifting function. So mute the stutter. Again, it gives you a lot of possibility with creating sounds. This is just how I like to use it. I love to use plucky sounds with resonators, as you probably could already tell, and a lot of Foley sounds, and creating a melody with it because it sounds very organic and it doesn't really require a lot of mixing afterwards, I think, in my opinion, because it just sounds very natural the way it is. A lot of people wouldn't even know that you're making electronic music. They might think that you're making some sort of new age type of thing, which is what my dad thinks most of the time what I'm doing. And yeah, apart from that, it's just the beloved EQ3 takes away a little bit of the high end, goes a long way. Love it. Very simple. So yeah. Oh, I think I messed it up. Yeah. Sometimes you sort of just have to play from the beginning of the loop because I think it counts how many steps? 8 steps. So it kind of mess it up if you play it in the middle. Always freeze it if you're afraid that might happen. And here, I love it when it happens because I don't know how it happens. This part, it's a drum rack. I think I copied it twice, what I did here and there, just to create a different type of mixing experience, I think. And here, I guess it's not that different, but I think I did something with it. I'm not sure what I did. But the essential part is that it's mainly Foley, using a bunch of resonators. Here, it's mainly just, this is a preset from Ableton, and this is something that I tweaked a little bit. That's the right one. That's how it's originally sounding. This goes a long way. As you can see here, you can just like pitch it up and down and do whatever you want with it. And here is what I did. Something else I did is with Isotope Iris. That melody is created from the same sample, actually. It's from a beer bottle sample. Don't know why it's not showing up. But there's supposed to be an audio file showing here. Never really run into that problem. I don't know if, Claire, you know what's happening. But
Yeah, I'm
there's
not
supposed
super
to be
sure.
an audio spectrum here.
There should be the audio spectrum there. It could possibly be a Zoom glitch. Sometimes that does happen. Although that is very strange. It should be there in Iris.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, my audio file is there, so it's playing fine.
That's okay.
But
it's all good.
yeah, there's supposed to be an audio spectrum on the screen. And what I did is that I selected this region. Love to do that a lot of the time because it creates very different texture. And I used a filter. Pitched it up a lot. Don't know if I could get back. Great. And you could use any type of modulation. I'm not doing anything really crazy. It's just a little bit of sort of like a envelope on the amp sort of thing. Very simple. This part of the audio file simply has a perfect fourth built in. So love that. And just created a melody with that alongside of the drum rack, because it started from the drum rack, sort of inspired by it. And in here, it lets you create, like, it sounds like a kalimba almost. A kalimba or like a marimba, but it's a little bit more dirty, which I love, because using the Ableton built-in marimba and kalimba might be a little bit too clean in terms of mixing, because it is usually like very sine-like. It gives you a lot of peaks in the spectrum. So I love using something else to let you like make your job easier in the future. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And these are just local ambience from a Shanghai restaurant. And these are little plates. Oh, using the Fracture, another free plugin. I forgot the company name. Just maybe search up Fracture.
I believe it's Glitch Machines.
Glitch Machines.
Yeah, Glitch Machines.
Yes.
Fracture? Yeah.
These two are the free plugins, let me tell you. I use so many free plugins and free like third-party things. Just check it out. It's a buffer-based. I believe it's a granulator, but it has so many different functions in it. Give it a little play. I'm here just using a preset, and I just lost a bunch of presets. Make sure you download the presets right and have fun with it. It's really good. So yeah, that's pretty much it, what I did with this one. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sienna. Everyone, please give Sienna a round of applause. Thank you so much, Sienna, for that presentation. That was awesome. We had some really awesome comments in YouTube as well. And we did have questions, a number of questions actually. The first one is quite a curious one, and it's, how do you keep tabs of all of the tracks on top of one each other? And is there something you do to maybe rhythmically line them up or mix them? And I know you mentioned a little bit about working with the grid. So do you want to maybe share a little bit more about that?
So I don't usually like to keep it organized, as you can see. I should probably do that. With other like more poppy sessions, I like to just group everything and quantize everything. Of course, everything in here is quantized. This is the bass line, I think. I don't really keep tabs of so many tracks. I have 67, which is easy to keep track, like relatively easy. It's not like something crazy like 100 something. But what I did before is that I sort of just organize it with time. As you could probably tell a little bit here, like samples that come in early will appear at the top, and it'll be like a streamline of samples going down. Sometimes I do that, but it ends up being a little bit complicated and later on. And try to color code it if you can. I guess that's the best advice. And do a lot of markers the way you understand it. This is my tiny beat. This is my kitchen. That's my big beat that I haven't shown you, that I end up throwing away. So keep a trash tab sometimes in your session, and like keep some sort of markers throughout your session, especially when you're doing something that's not grid based. Because usually if it's just something that's beat based, or like a pop session that I like to do, it's usually very simple structures, like 16 bars, 8 bars, 32 bars. It's easier to keep track.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
yeah,
Thanks, Sienna.
we
Also, we had some comments too, like great music. A lot of people loved like the real samples that you recorded or that you brought in. Rashab had a question. Is the toaster also in place?
I think the toaster is either from Pro Sound Library or Dr. B's personal
Oh,
library.
that's fun. We were joking about how it gets the Grammy for like adding stuff. Cool. We had another
Yeah.
question as well with oh wait, where is it over here? Ah yeah, so it's not so much a question but actually maybe a comment. So someone mentioned that they liked the film projector. Did you actually have a film
Mm,
projector or was that something else that was processed?
it is, I think it's a sample, and a lot of EQing.
Ah, yeah.
So just taking a lot of the high end out of it,
Very
mainly.
nice.
That's what I did.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, lots of people saying that it was great, really lovely composition. Someone said it reminded them a little bit of Concrete, which I think it definitely does. It's got like that organic sort of
Thank
feel,
you.
which I love a lot of too. We also had an interesting suggestion for apparently there's another plugin that's called Fracture XT that also possibly does something similar. So
Cool.
yeah, that's cool. Maybe something to look at. So I actually had a question for you, Sienna, if you don't mind. Because I know that you mentioned this as
Always
well.
welcome, Claire.
And I know you, thank you. I know you mentioned this as well, but you also do a lot of pop writing. And I loved what you just presented. I think it was a little bit more on your compositional side. So and I know maybe this is a difficult question, but what do you have a very different approach when you do pop stuff, or is there any overlap, or what do you usually do that's maybe different from your more compositional based approach?
I wouldn't say it's too different. I think with pop stuff, I also focus a lot of on textures. And the only big difference I think it would be I'm more organized with pop stuff because it's easier, and it gives you a lot of like little grids to keep you like on track of things. That's what I do mainly. With pop stuff, I use a lot more MIDI because it's just easier to control, keep track of your pitch and stuff. Recently, I've been trying to create pop songs that are a little bit more, I guess, not in pitch, not necessarily microtonal, but a little bit between
Mm,
pitches. That's what I like to start with. With pop music, I like to start with something from a modular that's not perfectly pitched, and then add percussion stuff onto it. That's what I like to do recently. But before that, I usually starts with a beat, just MIDI, anything from Pigments to Serum, Massive, just usual stuff. Yeah,
cool, awesome.
and
Thanks so
that
much for
answer.
sharing that.
Thank you.
Rashab had another request to play some pop music. I'm not sure if we have time for that, but actually, just to wrap up, Sienna, if you could let us know where we can find your music or where we can find out more about your work, that would be awesome.
So on Spotify, I have Sienna Wu, and on SoundCloud, the same name. You can find me almost any streaming platform, I think. Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks so much, Sienna. Everyone, give Sienna some claps. Drop some
Thank
in the chat on
you.
YouTube or on Zoom too. Thanks, everyone. We also had a couple of people just join us both on YouTube and on and inside Zoom, I think. So welcome everyone
Yay.
who just tuned in. We are the New York City Ableton user group. Really happy to see everyone over here. Thank you all for joining us. And yeah, so just wanted to take a quick second to maybe put everyone on the same page too. We run monthly music meetups, which are now online. We used to do this in person a lot, and they were hosted in 343 Labs physical location. Right now, we're still hosting via 343 Labs, but we're all online. My name's Claire, and I'm kind of usually the host-ish person for the user group online. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Also on YouTube, we're over there too. And that was Sienna again presenting a little bit about her compositional process. Thank you, Sienna, for doing this again,
Thank
all the way
you.
with like the 12-hour time difference.
Yes,
It's
yes.
crazy.
Good
Thank you.
breakfast call.
Oh my goodness. I hope you're enjoying your coffee. That's always good.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, thank you again. Yeah, got some
Thank
claps in
you.
the chat on YouTube too. So up next, we have another presenter who's an amazing musician as well as an amazing instructor. He's done so many things and he's been such a huge guide and mentor for a lot of the other instructors at 343 Labs too. It is my pleasure to introduce the very amazing Abe Duque. Yay, Abe, welcome. Gonna try to unmute you.
Sorry, I was just unmuting myself.
No, it's all
Hey,
good.
everybody. I'm really happy to be here. First time here. I feel a little bit nervous because I've never been in one of these meetups. What usually happens in here?
Well,
And
that's something we ask ourselves too. So,
right on. So I just guess I just jump into it, or are we talking?
yeah, please feel free to jump into it. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess you were going to do the screen thing, right? Because
Yeah, sure. You should be pinned right now. So, yeah.
okay. All right. So my name is Abe Duque. I've been around for a gazillion years. I started using Ableton, you wouldn't believe. I started using Ableton in 2001. I think some of you might not be older. Might be that might be older as some of you people are. I started using Ableton as a way to imagine playing live, actually, because the program is not called Ableton. The company's Ableton, and I know Claire likes to, to tell everybody this all the time. It's actually called
Yeah.
Live, and the idea behind it was not to make a DAW out of it. It was just really to get something to I mean, Robert Henke wanted to play on stage with his computer, basically. That was the idea, right? So so Ableton, if you look at Ableton 1, it looks a lot like Ableton 10, but there was no way of arranging things, and maybe not even any MIDI or anything like that. It was just a way to really launch a bunch of clips and stuff, but very revolutionary. But pretty soon after that, I mean, it evolved quickly. It went by Ableton 3. I would call it a DAW already somehow. However, I mean, I started producing in Ableton, but I also started to play live in Ableton. I think I went on the road. I was very much a working musician at that time, and I went on the road with Ableton in around 2005. I think was my first tour with Ableton, which was probably at that time already Ableton 5. It might have been 4 or 5 at that time. And the Ableton 5 was a really big version of Ableton for me. I did a lot of really of all my favorite tracks that I've made in Ableton 5, and I toured and played a lot with Ableton 5. Of course, as it got updates came. Of course, I kept on upgrading and updating to the versions that that we have up till now. But I spent a lot of time on the road playing. I played about maybe at least 300 shows, pretty much all around the world with Ableton, and have a lot of experience. Well, just got a lot of experience doing that and to do what to do. And I wanted to kind of show you a kind of a basic setup that I would have for one of these presentations. So let me see if I can get this going. I kind of worked out this snazzy thing here. So I have let's see, I have an overhead shot here that maybe you can see now. So this is some of the setup that I might have had in when I would play live. Now this is an APC40 Mark II. This one came a little later. This one came towards the end of my playing career. I would use the earlier version of the APC40. I don't know if you guys have ever played with that. It was a classic. And other controllers. There were other also actually controllers like this one here, this very small one, were actually my favorite thing to have. This actually became a nice thing to have, but I always kind of opted for the smaller, streamlined setup. I always wanted to like have everything in a carry-on so that I could go to the gig, get to the gig, play the gig, and get paid. My clothes, they didn't have to arrive, or everything else didn't have to arrive. My blow dryer or whatever didn't have to get there. My makeup, none of that. The only thing that I worried about was to be able to play the gig. So I would have this, I would really value things like this. This is like a $50, $60 controller. This is an older version of the Korg Nano Control. You can still get these now, and of course newer versions of it. And I would sometimes play with 3 of these, and that would make me very happy because I could set them up. Now, a couple of things you'll notice that I have tape here. If you guys are playing live, carry this type of blue kind of painter's tape. It's very important to like secure things. To see this is secure. I'm moving it back and forth, and it doesn't move. A lot of the times what you'll get with these controllers, especially the small ones with small connectors, is that if they move a little bit on your table, you might lose connection to your Ableton setup. And when that happens, then you'll be like, oh my God, it doesn't work anymore. And then hopefully you'll unplug it and plug it back in, and then it'll work again, but maybe not, and you don't want to be doing these type of things while you're out there playing live. You want to be able to just get it done. I like to say that when you play live, you lose about 30 points of IQ. You get like a really dumb version of yourself. Like you're up there like, deer in the headlights, like, what the hell? Okay. And something that you could have solved really easily at home becomes like this monumental, accomplishment to figure out in during the gig, right? So you want to make everything easy and idiot proof for yourself. So really kind of idiot proof or baby proof your controllers. Another thing to add to that is that as I kept on playing and my livelihood came from playing out live, I never played after a while, maybe after the first 10 sets, I got a second computer and I never played with less than 2 computers. I always had 2 computers going with the same setup. I would play mainly on one, have the other one kind of standing by, because I would say maybe 2% or 3% of the 300 gigs that I did, there was a failure in one of the computers for some reason. And the show must go on. And it was easy to just, if you had the other computer, you just go, oh, I meant to do that, and just keep going with the other computer. So if you're playing live with Ableton, don't take it for granted that computer is going to be solid and going to take you through the whole show. If you don't have another computer, then have something else to fall back on. Maybe if you have a drum machine or a synthesizer, a microphone is good. If you're a singer, just go a cappella for a little bit while you're like, singing something and trying to replug things in, maybe reboot your computer. You got to do anything you got to do to keep it all going. All right. So this would have been a main basic setup if I was just playing with Ableton. After a while, I did include drum machines and synthesizers, small little things that I could carry with me that would be able to kind of be, complement this setup. So it would be a kind of a hybrid live and regular setup. So right now I have the APC 40. Let me I have another one of these little scenes here that I can switch to. So I'm gonna switch to an Ableton scene that has both me and my overhead and the little Abe Duque logo here. I'll just take that out. That's kind of silly.
No, that logo's great. Please keep it in.
Oh, it's gone now. But anyway, so here we have a setup that this setup here, and let me just take out the inputs and outputs. You want to have more the most real estate you can on your live setup, so you don't want to be looking at things that you don't have to be looking at. You could see more clips if you have less things happening. If you got a setup that has like sends and returns, sends that you kind of already know and can have feedback coming back from the controller, it's probably better that you even take those out of the picture. But that depends, because you might want to have a glance at what might be going on, and it's quick if you just let the send on for some reason. So you'll notice that this is a very simple setup. This is kind of a DJ-ish setup that I did with all of these are tracks that I made. As you might notice, you see the two main channels here are both set up together as kind of copied versions of each other. Deck A and Deck B. You'll see that Deck A and Deck B have the same exact tracks in them. And the reason for that is that when I first started playing, I used to have I would have setups where I would have clips everywhere, and I would be like, I'll drop this one, and then now I'll drop that one. Now, I never really wanted to make a live show that would be like, I play this live show from beginning to end, and it's like a linear live show, and it's like pre-planned. I always wanted to kind of keep it on the fly and kind of like sort of like a DJ would, kind of like working the crowd with different material and what do they want to hear now? So in that case, I didn't want to have to like, if I had two main decks, A and B, with tracks in them, I didn't want to put half of my tracks on one side, half my tracks on the other, because I thought, oh, okay, if I'm playing this one, I want to go back, right? And then I want to play another track that might have been found on this deck over here. I would have had to play something else on this side before I came back and played this. Now I can play even a second version of the same track once again, I could just launch that and replay that and have that going here, and do even tricks in between both of them being there. So this was a great. It seemed like redundant to do that, but it really was a great saver where it came to like keeping myself dumbly organized. I only had to go up and down with with what was going on, so that I could find my tracks, and I didn't have to like search to the side. So it kept it one dimensional, just in a vertical dimension to find the tracks that I might wanted to play. To the side of that, so deck A and deck B would have been the two main tracks, or the two main, not tracks, but the two main decks where I would source material from for a set like this. But I would also have on the side, I would have a few other things, and this side I would have loops where I could, this, let's say I could just come in with this loop and just work that loop together with that, and of course effects and so on. I can just jump in there and switch out to loops. I would get to know what all these loops were. I have them color coded somehow, and I have them kind of labeled somehow, so I would know what would be going on. To the side would be more loops. So here I added like lots of crazy loops from some packs. I think this is a Vengeance pack loops, and they were like just kind of random loops. And a lot of times I like to pick out stuff that I really liked beforehand, and I like to surprise myself as to when something would come in. So if I was just playing this, and then wanted to just drop one of these guys in here, oh wow, look, that works, and I'd be kind of surprised and kind of happy to be doing that at the same time. So so that's what I have here, just tons of these. And over here, which I'm sad I don't have in this computer, because I know Sienna was talking about having Catalina and not being able to use some of their old stuff. The plugin that I had to work with this was a plugin that was a TB303 emulator, and I would have all these TB303 patterns here, where I could just switch to baseline kind of acid patterns that I could then tweak out on this section here. This section here would have been ready for tweaking the TB303 on this, but right now I don't have it. So imagine you're hearing or seeing a TB303 there. Lots of things, lots of details going into here. I know that I had a list of things that I wanted to just say, but I probably could talk for 10 hours about all this stuff because it's just so much. I wanted to make sure to tell you to carry things like tape, carry things like lights, to carry every cable that you need, have doubles of that. Every connector that you need, have doubles of that. You can't, redundancy is your friend when it comes to playing out and going on the road. So you'll see this controller here. This controller is kind of like the Push, but not with a display, but in the sense that it's built for Ableton. So it comes with color-coded clip launching, and everything kind of corresponds to what you're doing. You even get that kind of red box around the Ableton screen to show you where the clips are. It has a device. This section is by default set to control the devices. The little hand that comes up. You can actually take over any one of these, and that's what I love. You can make this a kind of a hybrid of a out of the box, ready to play thing, and actually kind of change the parameters that these things will control by mapping them. And once you map a control, it stops using the MIDI remote script. And it uses just regular MIDI and map to fixed and map to something that you might want to use. And the more fixed controls that you could have when you're playing live is the best, because you're really dumb and you want to like not have to look down and go, what was this and what was that? And meantime, music is playing and things are getting away from you, right? So what you want to do is be able to just kind of stick your hand out, reach over, turn a knob, and know that that's going to be that all the time, no matter what. So I would suggest that you take over some knobs. And one of the ones that's really important to take over for me was this master knob. So this is a fader. There's a master fader that should control the master fader level. This is a disaster to have out here just like this. If you have this out here, what would happen is if by mistake you bumped on it or did something, you either would get too loud or your music would go away. So I would map something else to it. And what I opted to map to it, I'll show you in a minute. I also have there's a crossfader set up in Ableton, and I could have done A/B crossfading, and yeah, that's fun. But I kind of came up with another use for it. So let me just show you quickly what the other use would be. So let's say I'm playing this here, and I have a setup where I can have the send set up to go to a delay, a ping pong delay, right? That's goes directly there. But what I do with the crossfader is that I control the frequency on the ping pong delay. So if I bring back, well, I don't want to bring back because you'll lose my face, but basically the frequency on the ping pong delay is being controlled by the crossfader, which is a great effect to play because when you could just jam on that. Okay, and now getting to the one where with what I did with the master. With the master, I did it the offset, and since it's going to repitch, you could do some pretty cool dubbing style effects. Okay, so that's one of the things that I like to do. I also like to add effects to buttons. So if I wanted to, I have this button here on all of them are set up to a reverb. So if I wanted to dub out like a kick bomb, I could just drop it in real quick. It's like an instant drop and pull out. You don't have to turn the knob. It's a little bit harder to manage to turn the knob and get that timing right. It's easier to just put it in and take it out. So reverb here, delay here, with the setup over here. Let's see, what else do I have in here? Okay, so what do I use this one for? So I set this one up with a beat repeat. Now, it's one of my least favorite of all the Ableton devices, but actually, it's actually pretty cool. Beat repeat, you could set it up so you could catch something and make it happen. So I set it up on the fader, and sometimes I put it on a crossfader to do that because it makes you look really cool to do that. And then on here, I set to the grid size so I could grab the space that I want or the timing I want and do that. But the coolest thing is that I set this button up. Maybe I didn't set the button up. Oh, there it is. So I set this button up to pitch decay, and I have to hold it down for it to happen. So you see that pitch decay. So let me do this faster. It's a really cool effect. And if you have like this going at the same time, you can do some crazy dubbing effects in real time. So I know I've been talking for a while. I want to just give a chance to you guys. Let me stop the music to maybe ask some questions if you have any. I can keep on going, but I just feel like, this is kind of a forum. And maybe if, I don't know, Claire, how am I doing on time?
Yeah, that was awesome, Abe. Thank you so much. I think like all of us were like really vibing out at the end. You can see in the chat, we had like very cool, we had rad, W. That was awesome. So I actually had a couple of questions for you, Abe. I feel like that presentation was like so awesome that we were all just kind of stunned. but maybe to start off with, you mentioned something just now pretty interesting about like, being surprised by loops. So what if something does go unexpectedly, and like, how do you actually manage that? I think like you mentioned liking the element of surprise, but what if something goes wrong or
goes wrong in the sense of what depends on what it is going wrong. Like if it's a technical glitch and everything just goes down, then we're talking about something else then. And if you play the wrong clip, then
maybe both actually, like
so,
either way.
So you got to be able to like just grab the mic and get your top hat and your cane and do a little song and dance, and the show has to go on somehow. You really do have to keep it going. You got to keep it moving forward. So the worst thing that could happen to you is that people get that vibe that you're in trouble. And this is one thing I trained myself when I was playing live. And if you ever see me playing live, if you see me smiling from ear to ear, something is really wrong, because I've trained myself to put a humongous smile on my face when things are going horrible, because at least people look up and go, hey, yeah, he's having fun up there. And you could always claim you meant to do anything. Hey, it's art. Yeah, it's art. Yeah, I meant to, drop out the music for 2 minutes. It's just kind of, what I do with my set or whatever. If people believe that there's a level of people thinking that you made a mistake and you suck, or that maybe your art is not for them. It's better them to think that your art is not for them than that you just don't have a handle technically on things. So you got to keep an aura of confidence up there. You got to keep everything going as if, and everything that happens up there, you meant to do. And well, now hopefully you never really have to do that, and that's because for me, I kind of prevent that by having a lot of redundancy in my preparation. I think preparation is more important to me than the actual gig. I spend maybe 10 times more preparing for a gig or for whatever I do, uh, uh, versus the time that I'm playing. When I'm playing, it's just the kind of coronation of my preparation, or the celebration of my preparation job. Where I now can take advantage and have fun, thinking about all the cool things that are happening at the moment. But so I bring two computers, I bring extra cables, I bring, I'm over prepared. I'm prepared to play like longer than I have to. The first time I played live, I think it was pre-Ableton. It was when I was still playing with drum machines and synths and everything, and I prepared for a long time. And I thought, man, I got this. And I was going to play at this club in Berlin called eWork. And I flew there with all my gear. It was pre 9/11 when you could fly with all sorts of things and do all sorts of crazy things. And I got there, set up. I was so confident because I thought I practiced, and I went through. I started. I had a set time of 45 minutes, and I was like, it's short, 45 minutes. I got this, and it started, and I went through everything I had, and then looked at my watch, and 11 minutes had gone by. I was left with like, what do I do now? So I had to repurpose everything, kind of revisit everything and expand it and kind of get creative on the spot, because you lose kind of a perception of what time is when you're playing out. You don't know what's up. So over prepare like crazy, like be able to play 3 times as much as you have to, just to be able to, deliver with that. So I'm very, very much into that discipline of things. And you learn after I really was living from this and doing this for about 10 years straight, and you learn from the road that teaches you when things go wrong and you look dumb, because your computer crashed and you don't have anything to add but like a dumb look on your face. Then when this happens, then you don't want that to happen again, and so you figure out ways of preventing that because you don't want to be in that spot ever again.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Abe. Like really great words of wisdom. We had a lot of people also in the chat. Actually, just someone just mentioned like, could you play all night from that playlist? And I guess the answer is probably yes, I think.
I could probably play a good 3 or 4 hours before my back gives out.
So it's more of like a physical limitation than
Yeah.
an actual.
Or I have to run to the bathroom or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally valid. So I actually had another question for you too, Abe, but I think maybe some people also in the chat or whoever's watching might have also seen this too, but there's a really great video of you doing like a tour diary style thing from a couple of years ago. And in that video, you're using pretty different controllers, I think, from what you're using now. Was there any kind of process that you went through choosing what kinds of controllers you
I
use?
would go through all sorts of controllers. I would try every see that, oh no, this is a miracle. Yeah, this is the one this is gonna be my, and then I would try it and I would hate it after 5 gigs and give it up. You know, in the end, the ones that I liked the most were the more simpler ones, the Korg Nano controls, and even I really came to like the APC 40, the Mark II. Not the Mark I was weird. It was good, but it was like weirdly shaped, so it really wouldn't fit in a carry-on because it was kind of like not square. It was kind of like this kind of oblong sort of weird shape to it, and it was always hard to carry around. The faders were popping out, not recessed like they are in this one. So the faders would break off pretty easily. You get to your gig and your two of your faders are missing because they broke. And so I didn't carry that one around too much. I think I used this thing called an Evolution from, I forgot what the M Audio Evolution, I think, the UC33. Sorry, it was UC33 Evolution. That one I used quite a lot. I probably went through like four of those until I got really down with just the Korg Nano controls, because they were just cheap. They were throwaway, so I could, like, take them and throw them at the crowd if I wanted to, or light them on fire. $50. It's $50, but it's still not, it's not like $350, which is what the APC 40 costs.
Did you actually throw one into the fire? Or I
I
hope not, but
didn't throw it into the fire.
maybe that's the equivalent of, like, guitars like smashing
Yeah.
guitars. Instead, it's controllers just throwing
Y-
controllers.
Yeah, we did that one time. We were playing. I was playing.
Oh
It
my
wasn't the
god.
computer. I had a MC303. It was a very old Roland piece, and it had like a metal body, and it broke on stage. And we all go like, "It's so funny. Let's break it. Like it's like a smash it like a guitar." But then one guy, somehow the thing came out, and the metal came up, and it slashed the guy's hand, and blood was everywhere. So it was pretty much pandemonium. It's Armageddon on stage. So.
That is amazing. Like, oh my gosh. So yeah, we did have someone just trying to confirm the controllers for your setup. Abe, was for this particular one, was it just the Nano Control and the APC 40?
Yeah, this one is the APC 40 and the Nano Control. This
Cool.
is, and this would, if I had to run out and do something today, I'd probably grab this because I prepared. And I would probably get a drum machine to go with that, like maybe like a TR8, like the first version, the cheap one now. I love cheap, good stuff because you can replace it quickly. I don't want to pay like a lot of money and then like, oh, I don't want to bring it to the gig. Somebody's gonna drop a beer on it. Somebody's gonna. You want to be able to just go, that sucks, but all right, whatever. That's the price of admission or whatever to this. So I really do like look for those kind of points with the gear, with where I can stand to lose it, but also not, be able to do quite a lot of stuff with it. So the TR8, the first one, I really like. I think you can get one for $200 or $300 right now, and there's so much you could do with it, especially on the fly. I could play on the fly just with that for half an hour if I had to. And then maybe a 303 clone or something like that, so I could do some bass lines. And yeah, whatever else, it depends on how long I'm asked to play. And sometimes I bring some of this Eurorack stuff with me. I've been doing more kind of just DAWless, just the Eurorack sets and stuff.
Yeah, I was actually just about to say, like, because maybe the elephant in the room is the stuff behind you. So, like, do you ever find those, do you ever find yourself bringing more of those to your live sets, or is it also the same kind of
Yeah,
situation? Like,
this one here is kind of my live setup one.
nice.
It's kind of closes together, and it should be a carry-on type of thing, but it's kind of heavy. And that one I like to bring out and play, but it's tough with this, especially since it's kind of
Mm.
expensive stuff. It kind of goes against my paradigm of like being able to throw it at the crowd. I couldn't throw this at the crowd.
Please don't. It's like,
No. So I only take it out for really rare occasions. It turns out that that's what happens. So that's why I really, this presentation, I kind of pulled out the controllers again. I realized, man, I really love playing with controllers. Maybe I just go back to playing with controllers. It's like you go like a pendulum. You go all computer for a while, then you go all all analog for a while, or modular, and then you come back or somewhere. You should kind of find a way to stay in the middle, but maybe.
yeah, no, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Abe. Where can we find your music or more of the stuff that you do?
Yeah, just like everywhere, like Spotify and iTunes. Is that still a thing? I don't know.
I
Uh,
think it's I don't know. I feel like it kind of is, but maybe
Apple
it's like just
Music,
music. Yeah. It's like,
Pandora,
yeah.
your MySpace.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Abe. Really appreciate it. Everyone, some claps for Abe, please, in the chat and everywhere else too. Thank you so much, Abe. That was amazing. Yay. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. We had a couple people just join us on YouTube. So welcome to everyone on YouTube. Thank you, everyone who is also here with us in the Zoom room. This is the New York City Ableton User Group. So we are again hosted by 340 Labs. We are a school based in New York City, where we also have a branch in Berlin now, which our co-founder Max is leading the charge on. And we're also doing lots of stuff online. So if you liked Abe's presentation, Abe is, like I said, also an amazing teacher. So you can take lessons with him too. at 343 as well. Abe teaches a lot of Ableton Live related courses too, as well as some really wonderful stuff about mixing and mastering. So you can find out more information on 343labs.com, and maybe we can put a link in the chat for that as well, if that's possible, Thomas, to put that in. That would be awesome. And you can find out more about the different offerings that we have. And kind of using that as a segue, I guess, I'm also an instructor at 343 Labs too. So I'm kind of the last person presenting today, everyone. My name's Claire, and like I said, I'm an Ableton Certified Trainer, and I'm also an instructor at 343 Labs. I'm really happy to be here with everyone in the community. Ooh, we got, someone just mentioned that they still have a Pandora t-shirt with like memories, and lots of thanks for Abe. Oh, Abe, someone also mentioned turmeric snacks. I don't know if that means anything, but like, maybe it might. But yeah, turmeric snacks, and hope that you're enjoying them. Oh, yay, we have Ben in the YouTube chat. Hi, Ben. How's it going? Nice to see you. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and set this up here, and we'll have the last presentation of the evening. So hopefully this works. We'll see if it shows up on the YouTube stream. But what I wanted to present a little bit about today is something that I've been working on quite a lot for most of my music productions. So apart from being an Ableton Certified Trainer and educator, I also work a lot as a producer, producing for myself, my individual artist project called dolltr, but also other artists' projects as well. And recently, or rather for this month of October, I've been doing something called Beattober, which was led by one of my friends, TAETRO, who's also our creative director at 343 Labs. He kind of like spearheaded this quote unquote movement sort of situation on Instagram and the greater social media world, where in October, you make a beat every day. So it's a little similar to the concept of January, which is another thing that people do in January, where they make something every day in the month of January. But for a lot of the Beattober things that I've been doing, so making a little beat every day, I've been doing a lot of things related to vocal chops, which are also things that I implement a lot in my music too. And for me, I feel maybe this also relates to something Sienna mentioned too, but as far as timbres that I'm attracted to, I love the sound of vocal chops. I think they're one of the best ways to bring unique and interesting tones into any piece of music, just because very honestly, the human voice is so unique. There are so many things that you can do of it. Whenever I speak about vocal chops, I always get reminded of the very first time I think I got tricked into thinking that a vocal chop was an instrument, which was when I was listening to, I think it was Where Are You Now by Jack U, Skrillex and Diplo's duet. They took a snippet of Justin Bieber's vocal and they turned it into this like really cool flute sounding lead. And I was really inspired by that moment, and it kind of stuck with me through the years. And it's a moment I keep thinking of whenever I'm doing vocal chopping stuff too. So my presentation won't be too long, but it's kind of going to be like a 101 type of thing. Or how do you get started making vocal chops? I'm going to talk about a couple of considerations as well as a couple of ways to think about approaching vocal chops. So let's get started. Let's share some audio here in live, and boom. So here is a live set that I used fairly recently, actually. You might be able to see that I have a couple of things laid out here. I'm a big fan of color coding, so maybe on the opposite side of Sienna, just I'm a little bit paranoid, but I'm sure Sienna is very organized too for poppy things as well. And this is actually a much more pared down version of the original live set that I had. But over the weekend, I participated in a Flash Beats challenge lab sort of event that got together 30 women and non-binary producers, and everyone was challenged to make something that was, I think, between 1 to 2 minutes and be able to make a full song using some samples that were provided to us along the theme of courage. So I made this thing. We'll take a listen to it, and then I'll break down some specific vocal chop things that I did as a way to walk you through the process of how I usually think about vocal chops nowadays. So here we go. Sticks and stones could break your bones, and words could hit you hard. Darkness grows and pulls you close when daylight seems too far. Where's the strength to find? It's hiding deep within my mind. There's a voice that's singing in my memory. The spirit's calling me. The angels watching be. You are your destiny. There's a voice that's singing in my memory. The spirit's calling me. The angels watching me. Spread your wings and make the dream reality. Be what you're meant to be, meant to be. You are your destiny. Your destiny. You are your destiny. So that's the song. Even listening to it is giving me anxiety because we had to make it in like 1 hour and 45 minutes. Oh, not sure if I'd ever do that again. But one part that gave me a lot of joy when I was making this was just doing the vocal choppy part. So let's take a look at this, and I'll also kind of walk you through a few things that I think about when I am doing vocal chops. And probably the most important one, or I don't know, I guess the most outstanding thing to me when I think about vocal chops. Different people will think differently about this, but I think a lot about timbre, and I think a lot about vowel sounds in particular. I think like when you're chopping up vocals, being able to catch the vowel in some kind of word is always a really magical moment, because then you can do some really interesting things with the formants, for example, shifting them around, all of these different considerations too. So let's take a listen to what actually happened over here. So here is the lead vocal that was printed, and again you can see that some of this is very uneven based of the way that I very quickly recorded it. But what I wanted to do when I was making this was, first of all, consider the material that I was starting with. So considering what vocals I already had to work with. So because of that, I zoned in on some parts of the chorus build-up section that you can see I labeled over here with the locators, and I honed in on this particular section that I thought had a couple of interesting words in the lyrics, and I wanted to maybe find an opportunity to repurpose them and to use them. So the lyrics were also done in, and the song itself was also done in the 1 hour and 45. So again, lots of anxiety. But let's zoom in a little bit and take a listen to what's going on. Wings and make the dream reality. Be what you're meant to be, meant to be. You are your destiny. So just listening to this, even at the moment, I can hear that there are lots of different kinds of vowel sounds. And again, this is also something that you have to consider a little bit when you're dealing with different languages. I work a lot with quite a variety of languages. Sometimes I make music, or I work with musicians who are making music in a language that is not English. So for example, Mandarin, Chinese, or in like Korean or Dutch. And in all of these different languages, their origins are so different, and not everything comes from Sanskrit or Latin. So even when you're listening out for vowel sounds, they can be quite nuanced. And this is something that, again, I maybe I'm more attentive to it just because I'm also a vocalist, or I've done vocal production to a point where it's like I listen and it's like, wait, someone is enunciating a u versus a oo, or something like that. Very subtle differences. But immediately a couple of things stand out, like the way that I'm elongating certain vocals here. And I wasn't really thinking of this when I recorded the vocal, but it was kind of like an after the fact producer mind that I'm kind of analyzing this in. So because of that, I wanted to work just with this section and see if I could build up vocal chops with it. So that's what I did over here. I ended up consolidating this entire vocal. So I'll show you what I did. I'll put this over here, and I'll temporarily deactivate that by pressing the number 0. That lets you temporarily deactivate a clip. So I copied this, and I just made a new track, a new audio track, and I put an exact copy of this over here. And then you can do something called consolidate, where you can consolidate an entire clip. You can also crop a clip, and that will create a new audio file that is able to just contain whatever you want it to contain. So for example, this entire audio file, you can see that this is my original printed vocal track that I recorded in, but this smaller one is just this little 8-bar phrase. See, that's perfect to work with. And someone once asked me before, like, wait, if you want to do vocal chop stuff, isn't it better to have more options in general? Maybe this is, I do think it's great to have options, but maybe this was more of like a workflow slash under pressure situation. I didn't want to give myself too many options because, with like 20 minutes left on the clock, like how many options do you actually want? So the fewer options you have, maybe it tends to be better. And then maybe you just make like an executive decision, like just do it. You only have like 20 minutes left. So that's what I did. So I chose to take this part and was lucky enough that I got to make a choice on a section that had some really good vowel sounds in it. So after that, this is a really neat feature I love to use so much, not just with vocals, but pretty much with chopping up most things. I love chopping up stuff. I think if maybe this is chopping stuff is my equivalent of like throwing gear or something, or not throwing broken gear. But I hopefully don't throw any gear. I don't think I could ever bring myself to throw push, for example. I don't think I'm even that strong. I can barely lift it. But back to chopping vocals. I love using this feature that's called slice to new MIDI track. So you can see over here, I know my contextual menu is a little bit off, but let me see if I can scroll up and hopefully this will be better. Yeah, there it is. Slice to new MIDI track. So what this usually tends to do is provide you with a couple of different options that lets you choose specific ways of slicing out any given piece of audio that you select. So if I click on this, and I'll have to share a different little menu, you should see something that looks like this. And it is a slice to new MIDI track option pop-up menu that lets you make a couple of decisions about how exactly you are creating different kinds of slices, whether it might be something related to quarter notes or specific note divisions, or even transients. So if you want to do things based on transients, which are when the starts of sounds happen. So whenever there are like louder amplitudes in sounds, you can also do that as well. But I think for this demonstration, let's do quarter notes. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to share live with everyone again, and let's do some slicing. So what just happened? Underneath this first track, we now see that I have a second track directly underneath it, and it's no longer just an audio track. This one is a MIDI track, and I wonder what would happen if I played it through. So let's go ahead and solo this and take a listen. Wings and make the dream reality. Be what you're meant to be, meant to be. You are your destiny. Cool. So what that has done is it's taken all of these and it's really done what the slicing said it would do. Chopped everything up as quarter notes, and you can also hear that they're quarter notes because you've got these like tiny pulses at each of the starts of the sounds. Wings and make the dream reality. You can also see that as I'm playing, it almost looks as if, and not almost, it is paging through these different drum rack cells that I have over here in the lower section of device view in live. So check this out. Look at all of the little play buttons. Wings and make the dream reality. It's like going. Be what you're meant to be. Cool. So that's a really great start. Now I have all of these different starting points in a way for how to, create different timbral combinations. And eventually, I'll show you what I eventually ended up with. But let's just do a quick experiment over here. So I'm going to take a listen to a few of these sounds, and I'm going to listen to the entire track one more time. Not the entire track, the entire clip. But I will make a couple of notes for sections that I think might be a little bit useful to pay attention to. So let's take a listen, and let's notice a couple of things that I'm doing. Wings and make the dream reality. Be what you're meant to be, meant to be. You are your destiny. Cool. So what I just did was I used the shortcut Command E if you're on a Mac or Control E if you're on a PC. And as I was listening, I was trying to find specific sounds or specific areas that I found had a pretty interesting vowel sound. And this is convenient because if you look at the current grid division that we have in live in the arrangement view, it is also a quarter note. So it kind of matches up each of the different little slices that I have. So it ends up being a really great reference point. If you ever want to change your grid divisions, you can always use Command 2 and Command 1 to switch them, or Control 1 and Control 2 if you're on a PC, but I'm on a Mac. So great, now we can kind of hone in on these different slices, right? So if I play from over here, cool. So I know that the slice I'm interested in is this one over here. And if I want to show that particular slice, I can double click on the drum rack cell, and there it is. So now I can see that I've got this slice here. What I might also do for organization is recolor this or rename it in this case. You can recolor it if you're on push. But since I'm not using push at the moment, I wanted to keep this in live. You don't have to have push to do this. You can go ahead and rename it. So I'm going to name it cool. And you can rename it however you want to be able to rename it. Actually, no, let's rename it a little better. Let's set it to one shot. Cool. So it's kind of like and, I believe. Then this other one here was, what was this? Cool. Reality, but notice how the way that I'm enunciating reality is actually reality. So it ends up having a really kind of nice mixed vowel that has a placement that's different from usually how it would be in your mouth. And maybe this is like my theater, weird theater student originally thing. My very first time I went to university, I did like theater studies, but depending on where you place certain vowels in your mouth, that's why the tone will change. So T is very like sounding, but if you have day, it's a little bit more open sounding. So reality, that's kind of nice. So that's over here. Slice number 11. So let's do te. And what else do we have? B. Cool. So that's B, but again, I'm kind of enunciating it like B, so it's a little bit weird, but could be kind of cool. So you know what? Let's just stick with these three. What if we're only working with these three slices? Cool. So I'm listening to these three slices and I want to create some kind of interesting concept, or maybe motif rather than concept, some kind of interesting like melodic idea that I can repurpose and reuse. So then I'm probably going to, in my usual way of doing things, hone in on these three little sections, and B and T. I'm noticing one thing immediately, and that is that they are kind of at different volumes. So I love doing this in simpler, anything that's related to that. I'm also going to close up info view so we can see more of this. But if you right click, you can always normalize the volume of something. So now it'll boop, come up. We'll do the same thing for these other ones too. Let's normalize their volumes. And yeah, I think I would like, in this case, all of them to be one shot. So I want everything to play through when I choose them. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Let's also normalize this. We'll set a little bit of fade in and fade out so that we don't get any of those clicks. It could be desirable sometimes, but in this case, I think I really want it to be a little smoother. So let's go ahead and do these, maybe to different degrees also, so that we have a little bit of variation. So now we've got, and we've got, and we've got. Now, another thing I'm noticing is that between te and they're the same pitch. So maybe it could be cool to transpose them a little bit, or one of them, not both of them, maybe just one of them. So I think I might do te, which now is a bit more like a, so it's a little different. Maybe let's see how this could sound with, let's do two up. Maybe a third, not a third, but three semitones. That's kind of cool. And because I'm currently in beats mode for warping, you're getting a little bit of a different timbral quality too, and I can always experiment with different types of warp modes. I think I am going to keep it at beats actually, because I like a little bit of that that slightly more nasal quality that has audible pitch shifting to it. So now I can go ahead and try to put these into context and really think about the different ways that I'm using them, maybe as some kind of pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and enable my computer MIDI keyboard, and I'm going to utilize my keyboard to play a couple of these slices. Let's locate them. I think the and is over here. Let's make sure I'm in the right octave too. Cool. Let's arm it. Great. So and is here. Let's see. Cool. And I think so those are my three things that I'm playing with. So what I usually tend to do then is just mess around. I'm going to go ahead and maybe loop this section. Or actually what I'll do is loop this other section that I have here. And let's see if I can, no, let's loop this section. And do this. Great. I'm also going to turn on the metronome so that I have some kind of reference point. Cool. cool. So that's really what I do a lot of. I play around with all of these different kinds of sounds. Maybe there are some things that I like, maybe there are some things that I don't like, but even if I'm not recording, and let's say I enjoyed that a lot, I love using Capture to kind of remind myself of what I played. So maybe this was something that I liked a lot, this section over here. So we can go ahead and maybe just take this over here and let's what should we do? Yeah, let's go ahead and just listen to this part now. So now you've got a couple of vocal chops hanging out. And this is a process that I think usually happens pretty quickly for me, depending on what kind of devices I'm working with. Like if I'm working with Push, it usually tends to be quite fast as well. And eventually, I like to play for you what I did come up with when by the end of the competition, and it was this. So let's take a listen to this. Gonna unarm that track and let's see what we got. So you can see that there's quite a lot of processing on it now. It's not just, the usual reverb and delay, which you saw me very quickly do with the sends. For this particular chain, I wanted to add a little bit of flanging as well as some echo and reverb, almost to make it like a pseudo vocal chop pad situation. And then I did some side chaining for a little bit of motion. I think not here, but over here. So side chained it to the key that I had set up, the sidechain key that I set up for my project overall. And then a little bit of filtering at the end, I think, to take a couple of these frequencies out. But that's essentially a really quick way to do vocal chops. Again, I don't really think about too much when I'm exploring different kinds of sounds, except really what catches my ear. And for a lot of people, it can be different. I also think for the song itself, it can also be different depending on the context. Like there are certain songs I work with vocal chops where you end up doing some really cool stuff with consonants. So not just the vowels, but even things like ts and s, which can end up being very cool hi-hat sounds instead. That's also something that is very cool to play with as well. But yeah, it's kind of like your vocal chopping 101. Lots of slicing, lots of playing around with different kinds of effects. And hopefully this was a little bit illuminating. Again, this is just one of the many ways that you can do stuff in live. I think one part that I've mentioned before in other presentations too is that there are so many ways to do the one thing in live. And every other producer is probably going to have a different way of doing vocal chops. But if you're getting started, using slice to MIDI can be a really great way of figuring out how to orientate yourself and get yourself going. So thanks, everyone. I'm going to pop over into the chat now for questions. If we have questions, I don't know if we do have questions. But oh, yes, we do have some questions. And yay, thanks so much, Sienna. That's so kind of you in the chat. Thanks, Thomas. Oh, no, I do want to kind of expand on this because right now it's just like, it's less than 2 minutes. I think it's like 1 minute 55 or something. But yeah, I'd like to eventually release it at some point, maybe. We'll see. I feel like every artist always has the anxiety thing, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, so Cosmic J is consolidate like bounce. Yeah, it totally is. It pretty much is. If you've used Logic before, then you might be familiar with the bounce in place function. Pretty similar as well. So yeah, that is yeah, no problem. So it's all good. So we're depending on where you are in your live journey, it's totally cool. So it will bounce with whatever effects or whatever devices are on that track. So I hope that clarifies the effects part. Yeah, thanks, Maya. Yeah, you can absolutely do it on a controller. So usually when I made this track itself, I did use Push for it. So it was a little bit of a different workflow, but generally pretty similar. You can still slice to MIDI track and figure stuff out there too. So yeah, it's a little bit, it kind of is interesting. So Cosmic J mentioned that this is interesting because it's not slicing to simpler or sampler, but it is a drum rack. And this is something that I think a few people might not realize. But if I look in the drum rack over here, like let's take a look at the final drum rack situation that happened. So I have all of these different kinds of slices, and I will say though that because we're still using MIDI, you could only ever have up to 128 slices since that's a MIDI situation. But something that's cool about this is that each of these drum cells is actually their own little simpler. So I think like that's something that when I first realized, I was like, wait, everything's a simpler. That's awesome. But because of that, you can have individual control. So like if you wanted one of the slices to, be a one shot, you could do that. If you wanted something else to be on classic mode, you could also do that. If you wanted something to be one shot but gated, you could also totally do that. So it ends up getting a lot more flexible if you do slice to MIDI track. So that's one thing that I love a lot about that. And yeah, thanks everyone for the encouraging comments, and I hope you found this presentation useful. That was pretty much all that I had to share. So thanks so much for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so we can zone in on everyone over here, removing spotlight, and let's get everyone in gallery view. Yay! Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in for today's user group. Thank you so much to Sienna and Abe, especially for coming in and doing this with us. We learned so much today. I learned so much from everyone, always, every time. I think maybe that's why I keep coming back here, other than the fact that I'm organizing it. It's like, but no, yay. Also, thank you to Thomas, who's been helping us manage the stream, and everything that's going on behind the scenes. Yay, claps for Thomas. Thomas, did you want to maybe, sorry to put you on the spot, did you want to speak about maybe some of the things we have that are coming up for 343 Labs?
Sure, yeah, of course. So, as Claire mentioned previously, we have a couple Ableton classes coming up that we'd love for you guys to join. But otherwise, if you guys are enjoying the stream, especially out there on YouTube, I'd highly encourage you guys to come back tomorrow at 1 p.m. for Max Wild's Theory Thursday show. So basically, we're streaming every day at 1 p.m. on our YouTube channel, all different production-related topics. So Friday, Abe will actually be back, following Max for his production basics show, which will be really exciting. And then we have John Selway for Saturdays with some techno action. So definitely worth checking out if you guys enjoyed the stream tonight. Otherwise, just check out what we have going on at 343labs.com. Like I mentioned, Ableton classes. We also cover Logic and a lot of different production topics like mixing and mastering, which Abe teaches as well. And lastly, we have some kid stuff. If you have any siblings or kids that are interested in learning with Claire, for example, there. And you can find that info just at 343labs.kids. And lastly, before I forget, we are, out there in Berlin now doing in-person classes. So definitely check out 343labs.de if you're interested in anything that's going on over there.
Cool. Thanks so much, Thomas. Also, a quick question. Abe, when is your next stream popping up?
Oh, on Friday.
Yeah, so tune in for Abe's stream. You can also tune in to pretty much all of our stream. Most of our streams are related to Ableton Live on 343 TV. Some of them are related to Logic, which is very cool too. And then you can also see some archive stuff about Bitwig that Abe also used to do, which is awesome. I know we have a couple of folks who are watching who actually did use Bitwig. So yay, Bitwig family!
I'll be using Bitwig on Friday.
Oh yeah, Bitwig. I feel like Abe and I are like the double agents, but yay, we're here. Anyway, thanks so much again, everyone, for tuning into the user group. Again, as Thomas mentioned, you can, yes, so someone just asked 1 p.m. New York time. So it's Eastern time for the 343 TV streams. The next user group we have is in November. So if you do want to join us, feel free to sign up for the newsletter. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel. And you can also join us in the Zoom room itself the next time. And you can communicate with us directly here if you would like to. Otherwise, we will also still be streaming to YouTube. So once again, thank you again, everyone. We will see all of you soon, hopefully, and have a great night or morning for Sienna or Ben also in the chat. Bye, everyone.